Hi guys, I am Roranoa. This video is about what if Goku become a Omni-king. Hope you like my video. Please subscribe, like and share Roranoa TV for more fanfiction crossover videos. Hiya! Goku shouted as he finally landed a punch against Jiren, sending the creepy alien flying backwards. Goku was panting heavily. He had a massive strain from his Kaioken and his Super Saiyan Blue wasn't going to last long, and he fell on one knee in exhaustion, reverting back to his base form. It was then that something snapped within Goku, something that would change the course of his life for all eternity. Goku shakily got back up on his feet, his hair covering his eyes. I ain't done yet. My entire universe depends on me. Jiren got back up on his feet and blankly stared at him. He blasted his power impact, it's that thing he used against Kale, thinking that it would knock him off the battlefield, but how wrong he was to think that. Goku swiped the blast aside, ignorant of its explosion. The spectators were in awe. Said a shocked Piccolo, is Goku becoming Ultra Instinct? I believe so, my dear Namekian, Whis replied. Goku has, once again, broken out of his shell, most probably after he was depleted of Super Saiyan Blue. However, it seems that this time, he has fully mastered its potential, as no planning seems to be forming in his head. I can tell by his expression, if ever so slightly, that is. The only thing he can think about is his speech. As Whis was talking, however, another thing was on his mind. Whis looked up and saw both Zenos. Their faces seemed like something was on their minds, like, it was time. Omni-samas, you aren't really thinking about. Whiz's thoughts were interrupted when a red and blue flaming aura flared around Goku, his hair standing on end with a silvery white color. When the Saiyan looked up, he sharply opened his eyes, silver pupils staring Jiren down. Jiren grunted, the tension rising. Then, in a blink of an eye, the duo clashed, sending a hypersonic flurry of punches against each other. Goku sent ki blasts straight to his opponent, but he replied with some of his own ki blasts. The duo charged at each other and their fists collided, sending a shockwave all through the void, and all the spectators stumbled back from the sheer impact of it. Jiren, this is the power that my friends and foe have given me. True strength comes from within. I continue to fight because I have to protect the ones I love. My wife, my sons, my best friends, I won't let them down and I won't lose to you. Goku flipped back on a pillar of rock and charged a Kamehameha while Jiren fired multiple ki blasts at him, but the Saiyan just jumped from one pillar to another. Jiren prepared another power impact and blasted it at Goku, the blast growing larger and larger. It was then that Goku teleported in front of Jiren and used his boots to kick him to the near end of the stage. What? Belmod cried. He dodged Jiren's strongest move. Is this the true power of Ultra Instinct? Belmod was panicking now. If Goku has finally mastered Ultra Instinct, then his chances of winning grow slim. Jiren, don't you dare lose. The clown god shouted, making his team flinch at the sound of his voice. Meanwhile, Goku's Kamehameha grew strong until it 2 times larger than it usually was, and it was still going. Jiren looked down, bits of rock falling into the abyss. He wasn't going to lose now, never. He didn't have time to react as Goku began charging more and more power into his signature move. Ha. Goku sent the blast straight to Jiren, who tried to block but was sent falling to his doom and, before he knew it, was teleported to the spectator seats. No, Jiren, how could you lose? Belmod cried, shaking his head like crazy. The Grand Priest then began to announce the erasure of Universe 11. 10 warriors from Universe 11 have dropped out, they have been wiped out. Therefore, Universe 11 will be erased. Belmod sighed and told Jiren he did good job up until that point. Both Xenos raised their hands and erased Universe 11. We did it, Beerus muttered, we did it. Beerus shot up into the sky and flew around like a crazy party animal, shouting, we won. We won, over and over again. Goku reverted back to his base form and collapsed on the ground, panting heavily. Universe 7 all ran to Goku and lifted him up in the air, with the exception of Vegeta, Piccolo and Frieza. Hey, I did it guys. I won. Goku panted, slightly grinning. It was then that both Zenos walked over to Goku, who had just managed to get down from his team's grasp. Goku, you were amazing. P. Zeno cheered. F. Zeno looked at his friend sternly and P. Zeno sighed. Goku, can we talk in private? Goku nodded and P. Zeno snapped his fingers and they were in a white plane of existence. What is it you want to talk to me about? Zen-chan and Zeno-sama. Goku asked. Goku, F. Zeno began. We have a proposition for you. Goku, we're running out of time, we discussed it before we started the tournament, that you would be our successor, no matter how dumb you are. And when an Omni-king chooses his successor, his immortality fades away. That's why we created the Tournament of Power, to have some fun before we die. Goku, we want you to be our successor. You have so much raw, untapped potential, and the way you scared the gods proves it. Goku, you are not like your race, you are kind-hearted and merciful, you are perfect for an Omni-king, if you accept, that is. Goku stood there, aghast. Watch over the 5 universes that remain. Zeno noticed his worry. Don't worry. Zeno shouted, you can talk it over with your friends when you get back to Universe 7. You know what to do when you have an answer. The white plane of existence faded, and both Zenos were nowhere to be seen, leaving Goku to contemplate his decisions. Meanwhile, King Yama was busy working when he heard an agonized scream echo throughout the other world. He smiled. Good to have you back, Frieza. At Capsule Corp, the Z fighters were all celebrating their victory over a large feast. Beerus was gulping down his food as always, and Vegeta gulped down nearly all the food. Everyone was happy, except one. Goku had barely touched his food, eating a grain of rice at a time. The Z fighters began to grow worried. Hey, Krillin called out to his friend, you okay? You've been rather quiet since the tournament ended. Oh, yeah, Goku absent-mindedly replied, but the group gave him multiple stares. He then sighed, I'm going to tell you, but promise me you guys won't freak out. The gang nodded, wondering what was bothering their friend. I got a proposition, to become Zen-chan and Zeno Sama's successor as the Omni-king. Beerus spat out his drink in shock, and Yamcha almost choked on a chunk of meat. Kakarot, Vegeta said in shock, you're serious? Goku nodded, and groaned in annoyance. Oh man, what should I do? If I accept, it's like leaving Earth open to threats. But if I decline, Zen-chan and Zeno-sama might die with no successor and the universes will have nothing to watch over them. Goku was tugging at his hair in confusion and frustration. It was unlike Goku to have a dilemma, and when he did, he was able to find a solution sooner rather than later. The gang all looked at each other then looked back at Goku. Goku, you should take it. Bulma suggested, shocking Goku. Bulma's right, Yamcha agreed, we've depended too much on you, we never seem to do anything without your help. It's time the gang learned how to walk on our own 2 feet. I'm not saying we won't need you, but unless we have some crazy, overpowered maniac, we'll be fine. So quit your worrying and do it. Besides, we've always wondered what you would look like as a high rank, and you can always visit. Or maybe you could do a work from home. And besides you need a better job anyway. Chi-Chi added, making the Z fighters stare at her. Goku looked at the Z fighters, all the friends and family he had gathered throughout his years. Goku looked down, balling his hands into fists underneath the table. He wasn't sure if the gang could handle without him cracking the whip. But, if anything, Yamcha was right, the gang had depended too much on him over the years, but would they be able to manage on their own? No. They can manage, after all, they came through for him, and he didn't always win. Gohan won against Cell, and, future, Trunks won against Zamasu and Goku Black. Goku sighed and stood up slowly. Are you sure? Goku asked. The Z fighters nodded, with the exclusion of Beerus and Vegeta. Kakarot, Vegeta called out, hey, you always were one step ahead of me, you low-class baka. Goku chuckled and smiled. The Saiyan took out the Zeno button and flipped it to its red side, he took a deep breath, and pressed the button, sending him to the Zeno's palace. In a flash of light, Goku saw himself in front of both Zenos. Goku, the duo called out as they flew over to the kind-hearted Saiyan. Goku, Zeno began, have you made your decision? Goku nodded and took a deep breath, I've decided, to accept. Both Zenos shouted, yada, and high-fived each other. Goku-san. Grand Priest said to Goku, the mantle of Omni-king is a heavy burden, are you sure? Yeah, even though it feels like I'm letting Earth be in danger, my friends have decided to step out of the shadows and have become more independent, however, should they need my assistance, I would gladly help them out. I know the responsibilities, so I must remain vigilant. Grand Priest nodded. Spoken like a true Omni-king. Well then, before we begin, here are some new clothes. You wouldn't want to look less regal in the GI now, do you? And, don't be surprised if it's a bit more grand than Zeno-sama's, they wanted rather simple clothes. These were the robes of an Omni-king long ago, I trust that you will wear them with pride. The Grand Priest waved his staff over Goku's body and a new set of clothes appeared, his GI on the floor forgotten. Goku wore white gloves with sapphires embedded on them, he wore gold shoulder pads and chest plate with a purple undershirt. What was the most prominent, though, was his long cape that looked like an entire universe was plastered on it, with moving stars, planets, and a purple-blue dark blue void. Goku didn't have time to admire the clothing as a rush of energy surged through him. Sure, Goku didn't like getting power the easy way, but it was for the best. Even in Ultra Instinct, he was nowhere near Zen-chan or Xeno-Sama's power levels. Those were the techniques and strengths of an Omni-king. As of today, Son Goku of Earth, you will rise as an Omni-king. Goku stared at the Grand Priest with a rekindled fire in his eyes, and the angel could have sworn he saw Goku's eyes go from black to silver then back to black, but he shrugged it off as a hallucination. It was then that P-Zeno stepped forward. Goku, you still haven't used the Super Dragon Balls for winning, what is your wish? You can wish for anything except for all the universes restored. Goku put a hand to his chin and thought, he was going to wish the universes back to life but, that had been thrown out the window, and he wouldn't want to wish for something like unlimited food, now that would be stupid. He did want to know about his heritage, however. Goku whispered his wish into the Grand Priest's ear and was shocked, but then a smile crept up to his lips as he went to where all 7 Super Dragon Balls were floating in space and began to summon Super Shenron, chanting in the language of the gods. Come forth, Dragon of the Gods, and grant my wish, pretty peas. The Super Dragon Balls glowed with an intense light and a bright flash engulfed the balls, a beacon of light emerged and it formed the shape of a dragon. When the light faded, a large, golden dragon with red eyes appeared. With a booming voice, he spoke in the language of the gods. I shall grant any wish, now speak. O mighty dragon, I wish for planet Vegeta and all the Saiyans from Universe 7 to be revived. Your wish is granted. Super Shenron's eyes glowed red and, in a galaxy not so far away, planet Vegeta and all the Saiyans were revived. Goku sensed the presence of many and smiled. This job may not be as bad as I thought. Goku. P. Zeno called out to Goku, thank you, we'll be going now. Both Zenos faded from existence. Goku didn't have time to mourn as he had a job to do. Goku called out to the attendants. Get the Grand Priest, next stop, planet Vegeta. A few minutes later, Goku and the Grand Priest were on their way to planet Vegeta. Goku had already told Vegeta and was on his way. 20 minutes later, Goku and the Grand Priest landed on planet Vegeta's soil. Goku stretched and gave a sigh. Alright, Grand Priest, could ya take care of negotiations with the king? I'm not very good at that, I also have to go and try to find my parents. Very well, Goku-sama. The Grand Priest replied. Goku-sama, yes. The angel replied, you are my superior after all. This will take some getting used to. Goku thought, he shrugged and flew off. Goku tried to sense anyone with a ki not so different than his. Goku closed his eyes, concentrating as hard as he could. It was then that a spike of energy hit Goku. That must be them. Goku cried as he dashed off at hypersonic speeds to his parents, Bardock and Jine. Meanwhile, the Grand Priest had just spoken with King Vegeta for a meeting that was to be scheduled right there and then, and the next thing the elites knew, they were watching the Saiyan King and Grand Priest talking. What is it you want? King Vegeta asked with his gruff voice. I've come to discuss something that my lord wishes to get done, though, sadly he could not come for personal reasons. The Grand Priest then gave a serious look. My lord, the Omni-king, wishes for Saiyans to help and protect planets, not destroy and sell them. His reason is because you're no longer in the PTO, as before he became ruler of universes, he defeated Frieza, then a young boy by the name of Trunks killed him, and it was my lord that killed him again after he was revived. May I ask, King Vegeta partly interrupted, who is this, Omni-king, you so fondly speak of? Why, it is one of your survivors of planet Vegeta's destruction. The Grand Priest replied, earning shock from all in the room, his earthling name is Son Goku, but he also goes by the name of Kakarot. Again, the Saiyans were shocked. From what they heard, Kakarot was just a third-class Saiyan with a power level of 2. How could he defeat Frieza with ease and become Omni-king? Well, King Vegeta said after recovering from his shock, what makes you think that we would follow such allegations? If that is the case, then I would have to go the hard way, even though my lord does not wish for violence in this interrogation. I suggest you accept, for it would surely disappoint one of your own race. Also, should you revert to your old ways, his friends, the Z-Fighters as they call themselves, would surely be able to take you all down. That sent shivers down the spines of all the Saiyans in the room, but King Vegeta remained stoic. Very well, we agree to your terms, as long as you don't destroy us as Frieza once did. I assure you, Goku-sama would never do such a thing, he is as pure as the heavens above. The Grand Priest replied, and he stood up from his seat and walked away, but he also added something before he left. One more thing, your son, the prince, he will arrive shortly. The Grand Priest then walked out of the room, leaving the king and his guards to just stare in shock. Goku, after a few minutes, found himself in the outskirts of the city where he sensed his parents. He found a small, two-story house and walked up to the door. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Goku waited patiently until a man who looked like himself opened the door, who looked at him in shock. Ye Kaka, Kakarot? Bardock asked. Goku nodded and hugged his father. Yes father, it's me, Kakarot. Goku didn't like his Saiyan name, but Bardock didn't know his Earthling name. Bardock pulled away from his son and called out. Jine, Kakarot's here. Jine then rushed to the front door and was his Goku waving at her. Oh, Kakarot, my baby. Jine hugged and sobbed on her son, who smiled. Mother, it's okay, I'm here now. Goku smiled. By the way, Kakarot. Bardock said to Goku, what's with the clothes? Goku scratched the back of his head sheepishly. It's a long story, I'll tell you at dinner. Jine smiled and rushed in to prepare. Bardock let Goku in and was greeted with a scowling Raditz. Hello, Kakarot. Raditz said his brother's name in disgust. Goku stared at him. Now, Raditz, I know you still hate me for killing you, but you must already know that I'm way stronger than you. Raditz gave a TCH. In response, Goku, being the simpleton that he is, grinned. Alright, I knew you would understand. Now, let's eat. On Earth, the Z fighters were all still at Bulma's, about to head to their respective places. You think Goku can handle the job? Tien asked. Master Roshi just looked up at the starry sky. Well, knowing Goku, he will. He's got Saiyan blood and superb strength. Sure, he may be an idiot, but that's his personality. He did get hit on the head as a small child, remember? But, even though he's dumb, I'm sure that he'll make it through. The gang nodded and looked up as well. It was then that Marin yawned. Daddy, I'm sleepy. Marin sighed. Krillin smiled. Well, 18 and I should get going, we gotta get Marin to sleep. She must be exhausted by fighting all the poachers. Bulma gave a wink to Krillin and waved goodbye to him. We should get going too. Piccolo said to Bulma as the rest of the group flew away, leaving Trunks, Vegeta, Beerus and Whis. Beerus had a smirk on his face as he grabbed onto Whis and blasted off. My lord, you seem excited. Whis called to Beerus, who smiled. I never thought that simpleton would become the Omni-king. Hey, I guess things don't always go the way you think they go. And that about sums up my life. Goku recalled, telling a shorter version of his life to his parents and brother, who were all awestruck at Goku's abilities. I had a vision of you defeating Frieza, but I never imagined you could go toe-to-toe with a god of destruction, let alone surpass one. Bardock spoke up after recovering from his shock. And I never imagined you would be the king of all. Now, Raditz. Jine said rather teasingly to her, elder son, Raditz died many years ago and Goku survived, so he is now officially the elder brother. HMPH, was all Raditz replied with when a knock on the door halted them. That must be the Grand Priest. That was quick. Anyway, thanks for having me, I'll come and visit again soon. Once Raditz cools off. Goku said that last bit under his breath as he stood up and walked to the door. But, he wasn't met with the Grand Priest, instead, it was Vegeta who was on his doorstep. Vegeta, what brings you here? Goku asked, not expecting his rival to be at his doorstep. I need you to come with me. Vegeta replied. Goku gave a final wave goodbye and blasted off with Vegeta. Sue. Goku began, what do ya need? Vegeta looked to the castle. I can't believe I'm going to say this but. I need your help. With my father. The king. Goku asked, why do he suddenly stopped and looked at Vegeta, his face softening. You need my help because you're not sure whether you deserve to see your father after all the evil you committed. Vegeta nodded, well, don't you worry. I'll be with you every step of the way. Vegeta told Goku thanks, but, he was too proud to say it, so he just grunted in reply. Goku grinned as they neared the castle where Vegeta and his father could make amends. Though, Geta, just know the Grand Priest might need to get me soon so we'll have to make it quick. Goku added. Vegeta just looked away. Tick, fine, I wanted to make this quick anyways. Once Goku and Vegeta neared the castle, two elite Saiyan guards, who were scared out of their wits, moved out of the way to let the duo into the castle. Once inside they saw the throne room with King Vegeta on his throne and the Grand Priest on the side who floated over to Goku. Your Majesty. The Grand Priest bowed, making Goku extremely sheepish and chuckle softly. The Saiyans stopped walking when they were in front of the king of all Saiyans. Vegeta gave his father a cold look as he signaled everyone to leave. Goku, however, stayed alongside the Grand Priest. Let these two stay, father. Vegeta said with disgust. Kakarot accompanied me to see you. King Vegeta sighed and stood up. Son, I didn't give you to Frieza without a reason, he was going to kill you, Iha. Is that really what you think is going through my head? Vegeta interrupted. Oh wait, that is what is going through my petty head, quoting from you, father. Insolence. I only did what I could to protect you. King Vegeta retaliated. Vegeta then went Super Saiyan. Well, death would have been a pleasure. Vegeta shouted, do you have any idea how much suffering I went through? Frieza made me push to the end no matter what condition I was in. I almost died going to play Chick because I had a Saiyan illness. Which is why they rescheduled it to later on. My life was a living nightmare, father. Vegeta felt tears spring his eyes, but he held them back with great difficulty. Before Vegeta could continue, however, Goku stepped in between the two. Vegeta, that's enough. His voice seemed more commanding than the overall outgoing, idiotic voice the prince was used to, which shocked him. This isn't why I tagged along, Vegeta, you wanted to make amends with him, not have a shout and match. Goku said, his eyes flashing silver with a hint of anger. What would this do, Vegeta? It won't change the past no matter how hard you try, so can't you just forgive and forget? Vegeta looked away, his eyes full of shame. Besides, you have to thank him, if it weren't for him, you wouldn't have met Bulma and Bulla and Trunks would have never been born. That counts for something, right? It seemed that the kind Saiyan reached through the prince. Satisfied, he nodded to the Grand Priest, who grabbed his shoulder and blasted off, leaving the father and son to contemplate what happened. Well, father. Vegeta began trying to find the words, I suppose I should apologize for my actions earlier. A Saiyan never apologizes. King Vegeta said, but no one said a Saiyan king shouldn't. King Vegeta then walked over to the Prince of all Saiyans and placed a gloved hand on his shoulder. Welcome back, my son, welcome back. While heading back to the palace, the Grand Priest and Goku were talking. The Zenos were wise to choose you, my lord. The Grand Priest stated whilst smiling. Goku gave his son grin and chuckled. Thanks, Grand Priest. Oh, and one more thing. Goku added, please don't call me with any regal titles, Goku is fine. Very well, Goku. The Grand Priest's face suddenly turned into a frown. This did not go unnoticed by Goku. What's wrong? The Saiyan asked. I just remembered a pressing matter. Said the Grand Priest, now that Zeno-sama is dead, Yami has returned. The made Goku even more confused. Who's Yami? Goku asked. The Grand Priest sighed. Yami was a previous Omni-king, and my student. The Grand Priest recollected the memories they both had together. Yami's home planet had been destroyed by a meteor and he somehow teleported to the palace. Sensing his strength, I decided to take him under my wing, hoping to make him Omni-king, and he surpassed my expectations. Well, ain't that a good thing? Goku asked, but the angel shook his head sadly. At first yes, but when he began to interact with mortals' lives, I knew something was wrong. The Grand Priest soon had a flashback to that dreadful day. Yami, what are you doing? Why did you cause a full-blown riot in planet Solaria? The Grand Priest yelled at his student, but Yami just shrugged him off and played with his red, scaly tail. Please, you and I both know how dangerous the Solarians were getting, I had to do something to bring back balance. Yami said with some agitation. A riot would not bring back balance. You could have desolated their planet. Or worse. Remember what happened on Universe 6 Earth. You caused the war that led to their extinction. The Grand Priest soon grew angry at his student's actions. What happened? This was not the kind boy he knew all those years ago. Why are you telling me what to do anyway? I am your superior. I can do whatever the heck I want. Yami stood up, his tail flicking around in rage and his white hair blew madly against the wind. It was then that a 3-year-old Zeno peeked behind the angel's legs. Yami noticed this and he flared his red aura. You were going to replace me with that kid from Planet Tech, weren't you? What potential does he have that I don't? Tell me, Grand Priest, or I will rip you apart limb by limb. No. Well then, face my wrath. Rag. Yami charged at the Grand Priest blindly, who immediately brought young Zeno to an attendant and blocked his attack with a shield. Yami soon lost all sanity, his eyes went from yellow to blood red, his body turned black and he let out a blood-curdling roar that made the void-like room ripple and tear, showing a black abyss. The Grand Priest soon got into a fighting staff and they both charged at each other. As the duo continued fighting, a scared Zeno accidentally used the powers that the Grand Priest taught him and chained Yami with white binds and sent him into the abyss. The Grand Priest then closed the rift and sighed. "Thank you, Zeno, you have my gratitude," the Grand Priest said, staring at the floor, and let a single tear slide down his cheek. "Where did I go wrong?" he thought, when a tiny body flew up and hugged the angel, who hugged back. "I promise to make you a better king, and to help you keep the seal on Yami closed for centuries to come. Zeno-sama. After the battle, I began training Zeno-sama to become Omni-king and to ensure the seal on Yami stayed put, but now." The Grand Priest sighed. "Now that he has passed, I'm afraid the seal is weakening and his return is imminent." "So why did he make me Omni-king?" Goku asked as they soon landed in front of the palace. "Apparently he foresaw this." The angel answered. "Zeno-sama knew that Yami would eventually return, so he told me to train the person who became that new Omni-king, which, we all know is you." "Are you sure?" Goku asked, absent-mindedly sitting on his throne. "Who knows how long it will take until Yami breaks free." "Do not fret, Goku," the Grand Priest reassured. "The seal is still quite strong, and it would take at least a few years until he awakens. Until then, I will train you to become a true Omni-king and awaken your hidden powers." This immediately erased any doubt that traced Goku's mind and he gave a small Saiyan smirk. "Well then, let's get started. 10 years have passed since I became Omni-king, and let me tell you, training with the Grand Priest had got to be the best thing ever. Before I started training, though, I secretly restored all the universe with the Super Dragon Balls, and, surprisingly, the Grand Priest took it better than I thought he would. On more pressing matters, the Grand Priest's training also helped me to check the seal on Yami or whatever his name was, and I could feel the seal weakening day by day, so we had to pick up the pace on training. During training, the Grand Priest taught me how to control my power more fluidly because, heck, the gap between me and Jiren was huge. And that's saying something. As well as controlling my power, the Grand Priest then taught me multiple techniques such as making weapons out of ki, bending the elements to my will and transforming into animals. Another thing I learned was that an Omni-king can't erase another Omni-king, so erasure was thrown out of the window. The Grand Priest also taught me how to tap into Ultra Instinct, so now my strength has been raised by leaps and bounds. I've also begun to start reading about the past Omni-kings to get some information on Yami and his past life. Apparently he was an Aphilbia, a lizard-like race that died out when a large meteor struck the planet, leaving him the only survivor. I heard that he was once a kind young man, so why did he do what he did? I had no time for thought when the Grand Priest spoke. "Goku, the seal is weakening more and more every day, and I'm pleased to say you have completed your training. However, knowing him, he would have a few men to fight against you. You cannot do this alone. Which is why I've called the gods of destructions of the 8 universes that joined the tournament of power to assist you in your battle. Only you can fight Yami though. Won't you be joining us?" I asked. The angel shook his head. "Though he is dangerous, I cannot bring myself to fight him. He was my student and closest friend. I could understand his reason for not fighting. This was the teacher of Yami after all. Even I wouldn't bring myself to kill a trusted friend like Vegeta or Krillin." "How long until they arrive?" I questioned again, to which the Grand Priest replied with, "In a few minutes." I gave a nod of satisfaction and prepared for their arrival. Meanwhile, in a dark abyss, dark red eyes slowly opened alongside 8 others. A white gap was beginning to get larger until it was half a door wide. "My lord, the seal is almost broken, soon it will be gone and your reign shall begin," a female said with a snake-like voice. The man in front smirked. "Yes, soon, my reign will begin. The reign of Yami. Haha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Thank you all for coming." Goku and the Grand Priest were sitting on a large table with 10 of the 14 chairs were filled, and 8 with gods of destruction. Universe 2, Hellas. Universe 3, Moscow. Universe 4, Quatella. Universe 6, Champa. Universe 7, Beerus. Universe 9, Sidra. Universe 10, Ramon. Universe 11, Belmod. Goku gave a small smile of gratitude that soon turned to a serious frown knowing the danger ahead. "As your angels have told you, a previous Omni-king known as Yami will soon break free from a seal that Zeno-sama placed a few millennia ago. I cannot fight alone, which is why I need your best fighters to show Yami and his men how strong we've become over the years. You've become a great king, Goku." Beerus thought and he sighed. "It seems teamwork is required to win this battle." The other gods nodded and looked back. "You have all chosen your warriors before this meeting, so let us make sure we have the right warriors." The Grand Priest soon made a scroll that had 8 names of people from different universes. Brienne de Chateau, also known as Brienne. Bergamo of the Trio de Dangers. Hit the legendary assassin. Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans. Murachim, leader of Universe 10. Dr. Paparoni the scientist. Ganos of Universe 4. Jiren the Grey. All the gods nodded in approval and Goku smiled. At least there is one person I know in this. Fightin' with, Geta would be fun. Goku grew excited. It would be fun to fight side by side the mortal that a god of destruction could not beat and his closest Saiyan friend. The Saiyan stood up and smiled. At least this lightened the mood a bit. Excellent choices, everyone. Tomorrow morning, we will go over tactics with the fighters. Dismissed. And with that, the gods faded out of existence, leaving the Saiyan and Angel alone in the room. We need to win this fight, Grand Priest. Goku stated, for the universe's sake. Indeed. Now, shall we continue training? The Saiyan nodded and they both walked back outside to continue the tough training ahead. The next day, the chosen warriors of each universe had gathered on an unknown planet with a rocky terrain alongside Goku. In the distance, a growing crack that glowed purple could be found, and it was still going. Vegeta looked towards the crack, arms crossed. So this is where that Yami guy you were talking about will appear? Vegeta asked, to which Goku immediately nodded and made a golden staff materialize in his hand and transformed to Ultra Instinct. According to the Grand Priest, yes. Goku replied, now, does everyone understand what we are facing? All the warriors nodded in reply. Brienne de Chateau, who transformed into Brienne, soon began twirling and making love hearts with her hands. The power of love shall prevail. Those who do not feel love will fall. Brienne yelled, making everyone sweat drop. I guess some things never change. Goku thought until the planet began to shake with intensity. Soon, a large, purple beacon of light was seen in the distance. When the light faded, 8 beings stood. One man had red, scaly skin, white hair, black ripped jeans and red eyes. This was Yami. Another man was 2 times taller than the first with red pants, bulky biceps with navy blue skin and 2 large horns protruding out of his ginger hair like a bull. He also carried an axe behind his back. A woman in the group had black hair and blood-red skin and eyes. She also had 2 swords strapped onto the back of her short, black, dress. There were also 3 sisters that had pastel pink, green and blue skin respectively with black eyes. They all had hair like female Majins and they all had bows. They each had white armor and gray boots. There were also 2 Namekians that had light green skin and green eyes and clothing similar to Piccolo, although there was no cape and the pants were blue instead of purple. Yami stepped forward and smirked with his sharp fangs. So, you are the Omni-king, eh? Yami smirked, materializing a sword in his hand. I know the Grand Priest doesn't have the guts to fight me, so he cowers behind weaklings like you. HMPH, it's time to show this fool we're not weaklings. Kakarot, let's dance with them, shall we? Vegeta asked, cracking his knuckles and getting in a fighting stance. Goku too got into a fighting stance and gave a small grin. Yeah, sure. Goku replied and walked in front of the warriors. We won't lose to you, Yami. You won't rule these universes, not on my watch. The wind blew harshly against all 18 warriors, and the tension was thick enough to be cut with a knife. They stayed like this for a few minutes until Yami's group made the first move. The group charged wildly to the opposing group, who got on the defensive. Each warrior took on a one-on-one battle with the other while Goku and Yami held back to conserve energy and served as backup. The battle for survival had begun. Vegeta was soon pushed back by the woman with swords and went Super Saiyan Blue. The woman smirked at the prince. My name is Katana, the one who will bring death to your doorstep. The woman now known as Katana said. Vegeta just merely smirked at her comment. Funny, but I've already been on death's doorstep twice. Vegeta remarked and stared at her. You're strong, for a woman. Flattery will get you nowhere, prince. Katana quipped, and she unsheathed her swords and charged at her opponent, who soon went royal blue. Vegeta, and yes, that's what I'm calling his new form, and charged at her, soon clashing. Hit, Jiren and full-powered Ganos soon were face to face with the 3 Majin sisters. We're the Majin sisters, Rava, Acta and Bar. The 3 sisters said in unison, each stretching their arms out with the universal fighters nimbly dodging out of the way. Good to know your names so I can write them on your graves. Hit said monotonously as he time-skipped to Rava and hit her in the stomach. You talk big, mister. Bar yelled childishly as she kicked Ganos to the side. Less talking, more fighting. Jiren interrupted as he used his power impact against Acta, and Ganos soon started sending electricity, making a hole through the Majin. However, her body soon formed back to its normal shape. I'm going to have fun with you too, Acta said sickly as she began taunting the trio, only to have no effect when Jiren charged a larger power blast against the sisters. Murachim and the horned bull known as Bullseye fought silently yet like sumo wrestlers. And Dr. Paparoni, who fused with robots to form Anaraza, alongside Ribrianne were fighting against the two Namekians Arcodio and Fiddle. The latter soon transformed into a giant Namekian and fought against Anaraza. Ribrianne was shouting out, "Love," like crazy and annoying the heck out of the three warriors. The teamwork was, at first shaky but soon, Goku's team got back on their feet. Having been from different universes, you wouldn't be surprised about their reactions towards each other since the Tournament of Power, and some of those scars have not healed. The battles had lasted for a few hours at most until all of the warriors had collapsed from exhaustion. The only two that were left were the kings themselves, Goku and Yami. Your warriors have fought well, Omni-king, Yami said, his sword still out. However, your winning streak has come to an end. I will take back my rightful place as Omni-king. You are just a measly fly compared to my power. The duo soon circled each other and soon, Yami's sword glowed and he charged at Goku, who extended his pole and blocked the charge with it. The duo soon jumped back and growled at each other. Your strength is impressive, Omni-king. But the question is, will it be enough? Yami questioned, to which Goku chuckled, what kind of a question is that? Oh, it will be enough. The kings then charged each other, ready for the next phase of the battle. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the Grand Priest watched the battle through a hologram, feeling a deep sense of guilt and regret to settle in his heart. He never wanted his own student to stray, because he deeply thought of Yami as an adopted son and wanted to treat him the best he could. However, knowing his student was tampering with mortal affairs, it broke his heart knowing that something went wrong down the line. Grand Priest, said a tiny, baby-like voice. The Grand Priest turned around and his eyes widened. He saw a tiny, ghost-like baby Zeno. Zeno-sama, the angel asked, walking over to the ghost and stared at him. Why are you sad, Grand Priest? Is it because of Whammy? Zeno asked, to which the Grand Priest nodded. Yes, little one. Yami almost seems too far out for me to reach. Zeno then snuggled up to the Grand Priest, who was shocked that he could touch him. Most ghosts were not able to be touched, then again, this was the king of everything. Rules did not apply to him. Maybe there was good in him. Maybe he was lonely and needed a friend. Like you. The Grand Priest smiled internally, even as a younger version, Zeno always gave the best advice. However, his smile soon turned to a frown and small tears began to fall. But how? I can't even bring myself to go near him. The Grand Priest asked. Well, Zeno thought, looking up, I think it's time to face your fears. The Grand Priest looked down for a few minutes until a serious look was plastered on his face. Yes, thank you Zeno. The Grand Priest looked up, only to see that Zeno was nowhere to be seen, confusing him greatly. The battle between the two kings raged on, both of them starting to wear down. Goku and Yami both panted heavily. Time to end this. They both thought and charged a Kamehameha and a beam respectively, trying to get as much energy into the blast as they could. Once fully charged, they both let out a raging scream and let loose. The blasts created a humongous explosion they both barely survived from. When the smoke cleared, they were soon greeted with a Grand Priest protected in a green shield. Grand Priest. The kings both shouted, clearly surprised that their teacher was here on the battlefield. The angel only smiled at the both of them. Alright boys, that's enough. Yami gave out a loud laugh at his previous teacher. Ha! First you decide to show your face to me and now you start acting all teacher-like. You are full of surprises. The angel simply ignored the comment and turned to his newest student, creating a telepathical link to him and Goku alone. I think he can be saved. The Grand Priest suggested, which didn't really surprise Goku, being the person who redeemed multiple people in his life. I kinda did too. Goku replied, I sensed some form of good in him, and I confirmed my suspicion in battle. I searched deep within and found a younger version of him, curled up and scared. I get the feeling he was forced into the man he is today by some overuse of dark energy. You did tell me he loved playing around with it, right? Indeed. The angel replied, I merely shrugged it off as part of his balance training with light and dark energy. If I can just find a way to aha. That's it. What? The Grand Priest asked. Goku whispered his plan into his ear and the angel soon had a thoughtful face. A bit risky but, well, let's just hope it works. Yami soon grew cocky and snarled. Whatever plan you have won't work. He watched as Goku soon flew up into the air, a force field soon formed around him as he raised his hands as his voice echoed. People of all universes, hear my plea and lend me your energy. Universe 7. The Z fighters soon tilted their heads up as they heard a familiar voice. It's Dad and his spirit bomb. Gohan shouted. Roshi nodded alongside him. Indeed, and it seems he needs our help. Quick, raise your arms. All the Z fighters soon lifted their hands in the air, and somewhere on Earth, a certain Mr. Satan had persuaded the entire planet to join in, and all of new planet Namek had joined in as well. The Saiyans also heard their master's plea and obeyed their command. A certain Raditz had refused, but Bardock gutted him in the stomach before he could object. Universe 2 inches its son Goku. Senkaku exclaimed alongside Su-Roa's. The one Brienne joined will gain our power of love. The duo raised their arms and the rest of the planet did the same, well, because they copy what they do all the time. Universe 11, Son Goku. Toppo said, looking up, your universe helped us, it is time we returned the favor. All the Pride Troopers and the entire universe raised their arms, having been eternally grateful to Universe 7 and Goku's wish. Goku soon felt all the energy of the living beings who had joined to help restore peace to the world. The spirit bomb was now 10 times larger than what he created when Buu arrived, and Ultra Instinct stacked the energy even more. However, this wasn't for killing. Goku concentrated as much as he possibly could and transformed the spirit bomb into a spirit blast. He then poured light energy into the blast and it made it go white and translucent. With a sharp cry he blasted the beam straight to Yami and it soon surrounded him. Black smoke could be seen and absorbed into the light which then dissipated. When the light faded, Yami was seen unconscious. However, his skin was much lighter and his form was a tad bit smaller than it was earlier. Goku and the Grand Priest walked over to Yami, who was slowly stirring, his eyes golden instead of its blood-red color. The Aphlebia shakily stood up and when he saw the duo, he quaked with fear. Please, spare me. I meant no harm, Master. Yami squealed, his voice more childlike than its demonic form earlier. The Grand Priest suddenly walked over to him, smiling. I know you didn't. The angel replied, I know how dark energy can affect those who wield it, but it is usually illnesses. How did you transform into a demon? Yami soon grew shocked. He had not thought how the dark energy could affect him, yet his research continued. However, he knew one thing that corrupted him a millennia ago. But before he could respond, Goku cut him off. Don't worry, you can tell us back at the palace, as soon as we get these warriors back on their feet. Goku turned and saw that Yami's group had faded, having been part of his demonic imagination. Goku's warriors, however, were still unconscious. Well, except for Jiren, who healed much quicker than the others and was meditating. Goku, Grand Priest and Yami soon chuckled as the angel used his powers to send the warriors back to their respective universes and they all flew off. Meanwhile, remnants of the dark cloud remained and glared with his glowing red eyes at the group, scowling. His plan had been foiled, but he had plan B already and dusted. The entity gave a harsh laugh and grinned. Enjoy your peace, son Goku, for this war is not over. And with that, the smoke flew into a crack in the ground, disappearing from sight. Once the trio headed back to the palace, they headed to the meeting room where Yami grabbed a book called Dark Creatures and Beasts. Yami turned to a page where a black, dragon-like beast was shown. It was called Akamu. Yami explained, pointing to the picture, Akamu feeds off of dark energy and negative feelings like hate or fear. Legend has it that Akamu once ruled all 18 universes with an iron fist, until an Omni-king named Soru sealed it into the very core of the planet we fought on. Son Goku, the clothes you wear were once from Soru long ago. Before he died and chose his successor, Soru placed an incredible amount of light energy into the robes so that it may one day be of use to the bearer. Goku then looked down at his robes with pride, knowing that he was wearing clothes of a legendary Omni-king in an age long past. Yami turned to the next page where a prophecy in the language of the gods was inscribed. I may be new to the whole language of the gods thing, but I should be able to translate it. Goku then coughed and began to translate, a Saiyan pure and rides on clouds. Will grow to be a king, kind yet proud. His kingdom's love, a vast amount will bring joy and hope, not tears or pouts when dark entities rise, and light fades the kingdom joins to save the day so when all has been said and done peace will forever last, for once. When Goku finished translating, the Grand Priest turned to Goku, that Saiyan must be you, Goku. The Saiyan nodded and soon sighed. What kind of kingdom did he have? All he did was watch over the universes, and he wasn't allowed in any mortal affairs. When Goku voiced his thoughts, the Grand Priest smiled. You don't have a kingdom, not yet at least. This confused Goku and Yami. What did he mean in that? They were about to question him when the angel continued, what I mean is that you could build a kingdom where people of all different universes can live in peace, no matter what race or universe they come from. But how? Yami replied. Hardly anyone knows of an Omni-king's existence, only gods and friends of said Omni-king. Don't worry, the Grand Priest assured, confusing the two kings, I managed to spread the word of your rise to the throne, and the kingdom part, well. I had a feeling this would happen. Come with me. Yami and Goku grabbed the Grand Priest's shoulders and were instantly teleported in a flash of green light. And what they saw was astounding. The trio stood on a cliff, seeing thousands of large dome and square houses surrounding what appeared to be a plaza. There was a good balance of greenery and homes of different universes, and a few hundred people were already living in these houses, some he knew, like his friends and family, and others not, like the people where the Pride Troopers, who had also came, once lived in. Goku looked to the distance and saw a large castle the height of 10 three-story houses and the width of 1.5 a football field. It was made with the strongest crystals across the universes, and it shone brightly across the kingdom. The king stood in awe at the entire scenery. Geez, Grand Priest, how long did it take ya to build all of this? Goku asked. The Grand Priest smiled at the Saiyan and said, a couple of months, my lord. Goku then smiled, thinking back from years ago when he was just a naive, somewhat stupid Saiyan who only lived for fighting. Now he would soon be a benevolent, intelligent and somewhat childlike protector and ruler of a kingdom. Goku knew to use the wisdom and power with care and not let in a tyrant who rules with an iron fist like a certain Arcosian. I suppose you should start by addressing your subjects, son Goku. Yami suggested, making the Saiyan gulp with slight nervousness as he flew towards the plaza, and he soon noticed Gohan, Goten, Krillin, Vegeta and Piccolo chilling at the benches. When they noticed Goku, they waved at him with the exception of Vegeta and Piccolo. Goku landed and smiled. Though he visited Earth every month, it was nice to know his friends were here. The Saiyans soon noticed that Goten had grown into a teenager and Krillin's hair had a few strands of gray hair. Goku sadly smiled, knowing that he would outlive all his friends and family because of the immortality that came with being Omni-king. Knowing them, they would want me to be happy and not sulk. Everyone dies soon, including me if I choose a successor. Goku thought. He shook his head, his friends were here now and he wouldn't waste a single moment with them. Man Krillin, you're getting pretty old. Goku said. Krillin just laughed, well, for my age I'm in pretty good shape, and I'm going into my 50s. But you look just as good as you left Earth to become Omni-king. Goku then laughed as he turned to Vegeta. Kakarot, the Grand Priest over there should apologize. He sent me somewhere, rather inappropriate. Vegeta scowled, confusing Goku, but then Gohan whispered in his ear. He sent him to Orange Star High, more specifically, the girls' toilet. This immediately made the Saiyan struggle to hold his laughter as the Grand Priest chuckled and shook his head. Vegeta gave a low growl and turned, grunting in annoyance. Once Goku calmed down, Yami spoke to them. If, we're done here, we best get ready. His Majesty must be prepared for his speech. This soon made Goku extremely nervous. He had lectured Champa and Beerus for not doing their jobs, but never in his life had he addressed hundreds of people. Goku sighed, knowing he should get it done and over with, as his friends looked at him and gave smiles of encouragement, making the king feel a bit more secure about this. A bit. As a large crowd gathered in the plaza, Goku jumped onto a large platform and went into Ultra Instinct to calm himself down. Once everyone arrived, he took a deep breath and spoke in a somewhat loud tone. Thank you all for accepting our invitation to come here to this new kingdom that the Grand Priest secretly made. Goku began, gaining more confidence as he improvised. I believe the Grand Priest has told you about a dark entity threatening all the universes in a few years' time. However, if all of us work together to bring friendship to each other, no matter what universe, we can defeat this creature known as a Kamu. This may seem cheesy to some, but it's true. I learned long ago that there is something stronger than an army, family. Goku soon made an image of a Kamu float above him, dark clouds swirling around it. A Kamu feeds off of negative thoughts and feelings. Fear, anger, sadness, hate, you name it. But, the image then showed small beams of light coming from each member of the crowd, swirling and engulfing a Kamu and destroying it. If we overwhelm it with positive thoughts like happiness, love, courage and kindness, we can be able to defeat it. Add that with the robes of an ancient Omni-king and you have an incredible amount of light. So when that beast show its ugly face, we will be ready. So please, will you stand with me? It took a few moments, but the crowd soon erupted into large cheers and whoops, making Goku sigh with relief. The Grand Priest and Yami walked over to Goku and smiled. I can imagine how nervous you must have been. Yami said whilst grinning. Goku too gave his famous sun grin and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Are you kidding me? I was terrified. Let us hope that the message got through and everyone can live in peace. I heard that some of the most pure-hearted people are coming to live here. The Grand Priest stated, making Goku nod and look up to the sky. Ya know, maybe this will bring everlasting peace. I believe it will. Goku then turned to the duo and Z fighters who had just arrived to greet him. Well then, let's get to work. I do not understand the purpose of placing eggs across the kingdom. A month had passed since the creation of Goku's new kingdom, named the Universus Kingdom, courtesy of Yami. Since then, the kingdom prospered, and more people had wanted to come and live in the kingdom. Now, over 10,000 or so people live in Universia. On this day, Goku had placed human-sized eggs across the kingdom for all the younger people to find. After all, it was Easter. Yami, however, was confused by the prospect of colorful eggs and the Easter bunny. Come on, Yami. Goku whined, you used to be Omni-king and are now my right-hand man. Surely you must know what Easter is. I'm afraid not, Your Majesty. Yami replied, Easter was not part of the world a millennia ago. And if it was, I would have surely read about it. Yami was shocked. Why was Goku so worried that he didn't know about Easter? I mean, he knew very little, only the religious aspects of it, yet that didn't satisfy the Saiyan. What was so great about it? Yami, if y'all want to learn more about the aspects of positive mortal emotions, you must first understand what makes those emotions, like excitement. Goku explained, little children on Earth just adore Easter, but it's more than just bunnies and eggs. In reality, the colored eggs actually bring the prospect of new life. But anyway, these holidays are what make me and many Earthlings happy. Ain't it fair for the other universes to enjoy them? True. Yami replied, by the way, what did you put in those eggs? Goku smirked, something Earthlings loved back at home. Just then, an Earthling woman suddenly squealed in the distance, 1 million zenny. Yami just stared at Goku. Really? 1 million of whatever currency people use. Goku grinned at Yami as he flew off, watching others collect the eggs and feel ecstatic. If others were happy, he was happy. Goku landed in front of the library where he might be able to get some time alone. Don't get him wrong, being an Omni-king was great and all, but even he needed rest. The Saiyan slowly opened the doors and walked over to the librarian, who was shocked at the prospect of meeting the Omni-king. Your Majesty. What an honor. How may I help you today? The old, blue-skinned woman asked with slight amazement. Goku just raised a hand, telling her that he only comes as a citizen. Don't worry, miss, I was just asking where all the history books are. Oh, the woman exclaimed, they are on the third row to your left. After giving the woman his thanks, he headed towards the history section. All the books about Omni-kings and demonic creatures had been moved to this library so that others would understand the history. However, some pages were invisible so that others might not have knowledge that could change their life, and only Goku could read them. Some things were better left unsaid. Goku walked into the aisle and stumbled upon a thick book called Legendary Beasts. Intrigued, Goku took the book and sat down on an empty chair and table and began to read. He read about how mythical creatures like hippogriffs and manticores had once existed, but went extinct when people hunted them for parts. The Saiyan continued reading until near midnight, to which he then left the library, so awashed with fatigue that he barely noticed that all the eggs for Easter had already been collected. Goku landed shakily onto the balcony. He pulled down a large curtain that covered the balcony and collapsed onto his bed and unconsciously pulled the covers over him, falling into a deep sleep. The next day, the Grand Priest went looking for Goku, hoping to start the day early. When the Grand Priest opened the door to his room, he saw Goku snoring loudly on his bed, hugging his pillow. The Grand Priest chuckled softly. He must have been reading a good book if he was up late that long, the angel thought, closing the door softly to let his king get some well-deserved rest after everything he had done for his kingdom, sacrificing a lot. The Grand Priest soon began to walk down the hallway when he was suddenly greeted with Yami. What brings you here, Yami? He asked. I was hoping I could get His Majesty ready for the day. His parents and friends have come to visit. Well, bad timing, Yami, my lord is still asleep. He was up all night at the library for some rest and relaxation. The Grand Priest replied, when he suddenly heard a door open and Goku step out yawning. Mornin' Yami, Grand Priest. Are my friends here? Goku asked, suddenly not feeling so tired. Yami nodded, yes, your majesty, alongside your parents. Goku smiled and walked down the hallway and down the stairs, rubbing the sleep out of his face. Goku came down the stairs to find all the Z fighters, Bardock, Giant and surprisingly Raditz. Must not have come here on his own accord. Goku thought as he waved to his friends. Hey man, you look exhausted, must have been a rough day. Yamcha said to Goku, who shook his head. Nah, I stayed up all night in the library reading. What? Goku covered his ears and groaned whilst all his friends excluding his family had their jaws dropped. Goku looked puzzled, didn't they know? You, what? Tien spoke trying to find the words. Goku chuckled at their reaction and nodded, yup, didn't expect that as an answer huh? Hey, never thought I'd live to see Kakarot reading. Vegeta replied at his comment whilst smirking. In the next few hours, the Z fighters and his parents had told Goku all that had transpired on the days that Goku wasn't around. The Saiyan was shocked and sad to find out that Master Roshi had passed away of a heart virus, but he couldn't dwell on it. His master was in a better place. Goku was also surprised to find out how much his granddaughter had been training, almost reaching the level of a Super Saiyan, and he was filled with pride for the young girl. Pan was beautiful, kind and a great fighter, what more could he ask for? Then, it was time for all of them to go. Mom, Dad, are you sure you don't want to live in the castle? There are some guest rooms. Goku asked his parents, who were leaving last. Yeah, your brother wouldn't be too pleased to live with you. Giant quipped, making Goku laugh. Giant and Bardock gave their son one last hug before flying off back home. Goku smiled and went in to turn in for the night. Meanwhile, underneath the surface, Akamu growled, his fangs showing as he scratched against the image of Universia. Grog. Son, Goku has been fighting hard. I can't even send even the tiniest of Dark Seekers without being disintegrated. It was then that Akamu suddenly had an idea, a very dark idea. What if I gain enough power to get in there with force? Should be easy enough, all I have to do is get the negative energy of different universes and I should be good. Akamu then, with a flick of his tail, looked through different universes and even checked the otherworld. Wait, otherworld. Universe 7 has the darkest of entities living in HFIL, sad name if you ask me. Akamu said to himself, I should be able to get all the negative energy of every creature in 2 years, knowing there is quite a lot in HFIL. Soon, this world will be covered with darkness, and that Grand Priest will pay for making Soru Omni-king after killing all my brethren and Soru sealing me away in this slum. Haha. Soon, wahahaha. Goku had been training immensely lately, trying to hone his skills so that when Akamu comes for him, he would be ready. In many fights he let his guard down, but this fight, he didn't care about fighting stronger opponents, at least, not anymore. All the Saiyan wanted is for his subjects to be safe, and that was something he had to do. Goku was currently practicing in the castle gardens in Ultra Instinct, hoping to control it more fluidly since he barely used it. Maybe I should keep it on. Goku thought as he blasted a tree, only for it to grow back. He was about to charge another blast when he spotted the Grand Priest in the distance. Oh, hey Grand Priest, haven't seen you round the castle lately. What's up? Goku asked, to which the angel shrugged. I have been meaning to ask you about becoming a master. The Grand Priest replied, which immediately caught Goku's attention as he stopped his training. What, ya mean like taken in a student? Goku asked. The Grand Priest nodded. But I never trained a student before. It's about time you did. The Grand Priest partly cut him off, making Goku sigh. Once the Grand Priest has a goal, he would do anything to fulfill it. Goku soon gave in and gave a small smile. Alright, Grand Priest, you win. Spread the word across the kingdom that I'm taking in students. Use the guards if you need assistance. Goku didn't know why he agreed to this, it had been boring as hell. Once word spread of Goku taking in students, around 100 young people had come, and none of them had potential to be his student. There was a simple task, perform your signature move. Most students had been Saiyans, some Namekians of Universe 6 or Earthlings of Universe 2. Sometimes people would mess up their moves or would be too scared to even perform, while others had signature moves too weak or was just for show. All this craziness had lasted for 2 whole hours until the last person stepped up. This Saiyan girl had dyed her hair in all the colors of the rainbow, to which Goku found weird, and tied it up in a neat ponytail, with the black part of her hair not tied. She wore a black jacket with a pink undershirt and light pink skirt. The girl would have been easily mistaken for an Earthling had she not have her tail flinging behind her back. What's your name, kid? Goku asked. The girl gave a confident grin and laughed. Name's Seema, Saiyan of Universe 7. The girl known as Seema exclaimed. Goku soon grew interested in her, having seen his younger self in her. Goku raised his hand, signaling to start her signature move. Seema smirked and cupped her hands up into the air, a white ball of ki glowing brightly in her hands. Goku soon felt a rush of energy as she screamed and the black part of her hair going golden and her eyes blue. With a loud scream she thrusted her hands forward. Serenity's might, a blast soon came to be and a loud explosion could be heard. The blast had destroyed the entire wall and the field beyond it. Goku stood awestruck. Never in his life had he seen such a move with such power before, and this girl had created a photo finish. Goku smiled softly at Seema. You did great, Seema. I never imagined you would have such strength. Very well, as of today, you are my student. Seema punched the air and gave a loud, yes. And whoops of joy. Goku smiled, he felt connected to the girl somehow and she had an attitude that brought back tearful memories. He hoped that this girl would surpass all his expectations. A few weeks later, Goku and Seema started training in the gardens in hopes of learning from each other and gain each other's skills. And over the next few weeks they began to understand each other socially, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses. Seema was quite surprised at Goku's fear of needles. The duo had just finished a bout of training and were currently walking through the gardens, admiring its beauty. Say, kid, Goku asked, sitting on a bench alongside Seema in the gardens, you're quite young, so where's your parents? Seema soon stopped walking and looked down, her black hair covering her eyes as tears threatened to spill. I never knew my parents. They abandoned me when I was born a few years before planet Vegeta's destruction as I was branded as a failure. That's why I trained every day when our race was revived, mastering Super Saiyan 2 and beyond. I wanted to become your student so I could prove I was more than just a third-class weakling and become one of the strongest the universe had ever seen. I hear ya, Goku replied, ruffling her hair. You know, you remind me of me when I was still a naive fighter, foodie who didn't even know what 1 + 1 was, heck, even kissing. I wanted to be the strongest in all the universes so I dedicated my whole life to getting stronger. To be honest, I didn't think of myself as a hero of justice or anything, but I did want to prove to all the gods that I was the strongest. My advice to you would be to never give up and push yourself even further beyond. Seema looked up with tear-filled eyes as she, for their first time since starting the training, wrapped her arms around her teacher as she cried. Goku was shocked at the motion, but soon shook out of his stupor as he hugged the girl back. This lasted a few minutes until she soon fell asleep in his strong arms, her tail wrapped around the older Saiyan. Goku smiled at Seema, materializing a blanket and covering her with it. You really are something special, kid. Goku said to Seema, who stirred slightly as she looked up weakly. You know, me and Chi-Chi never had a daughter before, but, if we did, I would want her to be just like you. Seema was slightly amazed at his words, but soon laid her head on his lap and muttered a few simple words that melted the Saiyan's heart. Thank you, Daddy. Meanwhile, a worried King Yama was looking at his paperwork that was suddenly bestowed upon him as he tapped his large pencil onto his desk. What am I to do about this? What was his worry, you ask? Well, multiple occurrences of weakened warriors in HFIL have been recorded on this sheet, and they all had one thing in common: a black beast absorbed their energies. Seems I have to bring out some people in case more damage be wrought, but the question is, who? King Yama looked down at his list of dead and saw two who were extremely dangerous, yet had been good doggies for quite some time. The judge of the dead gave a groan as he signaled to two Oni who went straight to work to find the two of the most dangerous people in Universe 7. Frieza and Cell. Goku was pacing around in the throne room, Seema trying her best to ignore her master's tapping of feet whilst reading a book. The duo had both gotten a message from King Yama about incidents in Universe 7's otherworld. In the last 2 years, HFIL dwellers were being drained of their energy by a dark creature. Even the stronger warriors like Majin Buu, Cooler and Broly were all drained and it seemed like hope was fading in Otherworld. Until now. Master Goku, are you sure it's a good idea to bring them here? Won't that lessen our chances of winning with their hate for you? Asked Seema, finishing the book that she was reading and wrapped her tail around her waist. Don't worry, Seema, Goku reassured, they'll both be able to come around, hopefully. This may actually be an experience that will benefit both Frieza and Cell. Besides, they'll only be around until we get the whole Akamu thing sorted out, so don't worry. Before Seema could actually reply, an attendant walked into the throne room, bowing. Forgive my intrusion, sire, but the warriors you have requested have arrived. The Grand Priest and Sir Yami are currently with them. Goku turned to the attendant. Very good, send them both in. And with that, the attendant bowed and teleported away. Seema soon walked over to Goku with a worried look on her face. I just hope they don't harm anyone. They wouldn't dare. King Yama told me that Frieza and Cell have unbreakable and unremovable bracelets that sense the wearer's ki, so if they try and power up or shoot ki blasts or punch people, the bracelet would send an electrical current into the body and paralyze them for at least a week or so. Goku explained. Seema cringed at the thought of being paralyzed for a week. She wouldn't be able to train for a while and be bedridden. Your Majesty, we have brought them here. Goku turned to the sound of the Grand Priest and Yami and smiled as they stepped to the side to show the Arcosian and the android who's really the Omni-king. And boy, were they surprised. Wait, so you're telling me that this filthy monkey is the Omni-king? Frieza exclaimed, veins bulging out as he struggled to remain composed. Cell, on the other hand, was another story. Well, this is certainly a surprise, said Cell, sounding impressed and slightly enraged. If there was any hint of fear in his voice, it was well hidden. If only there was some sort of weakness within the Saiyan. If you're trying to find ways to kill me guys, it ain't gonna work, said Goku as he probed their minds. I can't be killed and I don't age. I also have Jiren, Vegeta and Hit working as captains of the Royal Guard as well as my right-hand man Yami, so if you try anything, you'll just die even though you're already dead. Now that the introductions are taken care of, I'll show you to your rooms, said Yami, quickly changing the subject. This way. Frieza and Cell both followed the Aphilbia and left the room, leaving the Grand Priest, Goku and Seema. Well, Master Goku, let's see how this goes. Frieza and Cell inspected the room that they both shared. This will not be a Frieza and Cell ship, slightly annoyed that they both were roommates, but it was better than nothing, right? TCH. I still can't believe that ape Goku is our superior. Frieza bursted out in anger, clenching his fists as he tried to control his ki. Any massive flare of energy would immediately activate the bracelet and he did not wish to be a frozen mess. Well, what can we do, Frieza? Cell replied, as much as I hate to admit it, he's millions of miles ahead of us, and adding with Vegeta and those other two, Hit and Jiren. Frieza cut off. Yes, those two. Cell rolled his eyes. I still don't believe we can take them on. This kingdom is much more than we expected. Frieza sighed. Yes, I suppose you're right, for once. The Arcosian said the last bit under his breath. Suddenly, the duo both heard footsteps from outside their room. Curious, they carefully and slowly opened the door that leads into the large hallway and saw Goku, Yami, Seema, Vegeta and the Grand Priest take a left. Quickly, they masked their ki. Frieza learned from Cell and quietly followed the group. When they saw them enter a room, they peeked from the slightly ajar door and overheard their conversation. It seems that Akamu has started his attack. Yami started, his tail curling in a tense motion. The Grand Priest nodded. Yes, and it seems he's taking negative energy to power himself up. Vegeta smirked, his arms crossed. HMPH, it seems the beast is trying to break through. It's probably having difficulty with the amount of light energy emitting from this land. Good work, Kakarot. Hee. Thanks. Goku suddenly turned serious. The question is, why does he despise us so much? The Grand Priest lowered his head. I believe, it is my fault. All eyes were on him. Billions of years ago, before Soru was instated as Omni-king, there was a planet where sentient and beast-like entities like him roamed peacefully. That was planet Anima. I had trained both Akamu and Soru in the art of fighting, training them to be the leaders they were meant to be. So what does that have to do with Akamu turning evil? Seema asked. Let me finish. The angel took a deep breath and spoke. Once their training was complete, I gave Soru the title of Omni-king and Akamu the title of Omni-prince. I suppose he didn't take it very well, said Vegeta. The Grand Priest nodded in response. No, he didn't. But I told him that he would have equal rights with Soru, only with a different title. He calmed down, but not for long. I realized the bestials, the race Akamu is from, had dark secrets. They would take control of others and feed off of their hate. Knowing this, I had to make a decision: destroy them and the universes were safe, or leave them and they get destroyed. You chose the former. Goku trailed off. Once again, the angel nodded. Indeed, and when I did, Akamu threw into a fit of rage, destroying everything in sight. Both Soru and I fought him, and in the end, Soru sealed Akamu to the very core of that very planet that you and Yami fought on. Great, so you're the reason the universes are on the brink of being ruled by a demon you once taught. Sima summed up, crossing her arms over her chest. Goku put a hand on Sima's shoulder before responding, everyone has their reasons for doing things, Sima. The Grand Priest is no exception. Suddenly, Frieza and Cell walked into the room. Cell was the first to speak, sorry, but we couldn't help but eavesdrop on your conversation. So you heard what I said? The Grand Priest asked. The duo nodded in unison. It seems we're not the only ones causing havoc in the universe. Frieza gave a feral growl, you're the reason we were sent here, regardless of the reason, albeit a good one. Calm down, Frieza. Goku reprimanded, as of right now, Akamu is a threat that needs to be put down. We can't risk anything happening to the people of all 12 universes, so we're gonna need all the help we can get. Are you seriously asking us to join forces with you? The HFIL dwellers shouted in unison, making everyone cover their ears. Geez guys, can ya keep it down? Goku said in annoyance. However, the Arcosian ignored the Saiyan's words and gave a deadly look. No. Why would I help you if you broke your promise to revive me, you monkey? Look, I had a lot on my mind. Goku countered back, what matters now is that we work together. If we don't, every universe will be ruled and plagued by darkness. Right now, defeating Akamu is our main priority, not some petty grudge, and the same goes for you too, Cell. Frieza looked down, giving a small, tch, in response to Goku. He hated being ordered around. But then, he would never get the chance to rule the universes, so the best option was to work with the monkey, for now. Frieza sighed and looked at the filthy monkey, his tail lashing around behind him. Fine, I'll work with you, only until this is over, you hear? Goku nodded, and then turned to Cell, what about you? Cell looked away, fine, but only because Frieza's doing the same. Great, we need to make preparations right. Suddenly, a loud explosion could be heard from the outskirts of the kingdom, getting everyone's attention. You don't think, Sima began. The Grand Priest nodded in spite of all the shock. Yes, young one, it's Akamu. That key I know all too well. Though it seems he's only bringing in 3 warriors, how odd. Vegeta replied. Goku turned and went Ultra Instinct. The Saiyan then turned to his teacher. Do the guards remember the protocol? He nodded. Did you put up a shield? He nodded. Good, now, let's go. We have some universes to save. Thank you for watching What If Goku Become Omni-king. Hope you like my video. Please subscribe, like and share Reconnecting TV for more fanfiction crossover videos.